Hello, and welcome to Budget Commander. On this channel, we'll discuss Magic the Gathering topics with a focus on playing Commander on a budget. We'll cover things like deck building, top cards, deck techs, and more. Let's get started. Hello friends, welcome to Budget Commander. Today we're going to be going over building your Budget Commander mana base. Last week we came out with the first part in our series of deck building template. In that template we talked about why 39, or we showed that 39 was the median number of the top decks. So we're going to talk about how those 39 lands should be broken up. There's 4 different categories for the lands, which we'll go into in a second. I'll put a link in the description as well if you want to look back and see part 1 of this series. Remember, this guide is for budget players, so my play group plays 2DH, $2 Highlander, which is where all the cards in the deck must cost $2 or less, with the exception of the Commander, which is 5. So we won't be running cards that are over that. Some of the cards have now come up over $2 since all the decks were from 2018, but this is for budget players. So keep that in mind. We're not going to be having, shock lands and other higher, more expensive cards that are in Modern and Legacy and things like that. So getting into the 4 different kinds of lands. The first one up was Basics. This is going to make up the majority of your land base. I love having lots of basics in my decks relative to what the rest of my play group does, simply because it gives you a little bit more speed, helps you play cards possibly a turn earlier than my opponents if they're playing, lands that come into play tapped. Next category we have are multicolored lands. So these are lands that their primary purpose is to provide you with more than one color. Command Towers, super popular. That's come up over $2 now, but the rest of these I believe are still under $2. And the main reason you have them in your deck is because they give you more than one color. Opal Palace and some other lands like it, I had to decide when I was going through all the data whether the main purpose was giving out +1/+1 counters or fixing your mana. So I had to do a little bit of that deciding on some of those cards, but for the most part it's decided for you, such as Dismal Backwater in the top right there. It gives you blue and black, comes with the added bonus of giving you an extra life, but its main purpose is to give you more than one color. After multicolored, we have fetch lands. These are not the official fetch lands, but, a layman's term, fetch lands. These are lands that provide you with 2 different things. First, they help you fix your colors. So if you're in a multicolored deck, it can get you the color you need. And secondly, it gives you a marginal card advantage in that it thins your deck a little bit. You crack your Evolving Wilds, and now you're down from 99 cards to 98 cards in your library. Or if you have your starting hand of 7, you use that your first turn, now your library only has 92 cards. So very slim marginal advantage you're getting out of using those. But fetch lands I put as another category. Most of them, the main reason is to help you with fixing your colors though. And then the last category we have are utility lands, which usually provide you with mana, but they also give you some other kind of advantage. So Temple of the False God can ramp you a little bit, gives you 2 mana in 1 land. Other ones like Buried Ruin, Darksteel Ingot, these are in Artifacts, Matters decks. Then you have lots of basic ones that cycle, which if you don't need that land, you can just get rid of it to draw a new card. So utility lands are a little bit up for deck builders' choice of what fits in that category, but these are ones that maybe their main goal or the main thing they do isn't provide you with mana, but they give you some kind of versatility, agility, maneuverability in the game. So those are our 4 categories. Next we're going to talk about what your deck should look like if it's a monocolored deck. So they didn't run any multicolored lands, which makes sense. You're monocolored. And here I laid out all the data for you so you can pick and choose from it. The orange color is what is the median number, so that's what we're going to be going off of. And if you're shooting for 39 lands, you're going to run 27 basics, 1 fetch land, and 11 utility lands. So lots of utility lands relative to any of the other decks. The 1 fetch land that showed up in all of these that ran a fetch land was Myriad Landscape, and that's because it gets you 2, so it ramps you a little bit, which would be why that showed up in a lot of the decks. Remember, this is based on our data from the whole grouping of 32 top 32 decks, but there's only 5 monocolored, and I also included the colorless deck in there, so there's 6 monocolored decks being analyzed for this data set. Then we have the dual colored decks. There's 10 of these, 1 for each of the guilds, and there's all the numbers again for you. We're going to be running 22 basics, 8 multicolored, 2 fetch lands, and 7 utility lands to hit our target number of 39. I did want to note that Tatiova Benthic Druid made up one of the dual colored decks, and that deck ran 41 basics, and that was it. So this is a Lands Matter deck, and every time that player would play a land, they got to draw a card and gain a life. So they just put a bunch of basics in there for speed. Only having 2 colors maybe allows you to do that, especially if you're getting lots of extra card draw off your commander. So kind of cool that they were able to run that, which is also why they had 0 multicolored, 0 fetch, and 0 utility. So they kind of skewed the data heavy on one end and low on the other with their deck list. Then we had the tricolor decks. This was made up from 10 different decks in our data pool. Median numbers here are 20 basics, 12 multicolored lands, 3 fetch lands, and 4 utility lands. So shoot for those numbers if you're building a tricolor deck. Then we have the 4 and 5 color mana bases. This was made up from 6 decks, just like the monocolored, and we're going to be running 17 basics, 15 multicolored, 3 fetches, and 5 utility lands. Then, summary of it all. Here's to summarize for each of the different deck types. So we're not going to go over all the numbers here. You can pause it if you want to. Mono is made up of blue, dual is the green, tri is the yellow, and then 4 and 5 color is the orange. I did think it was interesting that the 4 and 5 color decks ran more utility lands than the tricolor decks, but that's a different note. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the makeup of your basic lands. A common way that a lot of people do is to calculate the total number of mana symbols in a deck. So I gave an example of a Grixis deck here. That's blue, black, red. If your deck had 85 different symbols and you were running 20 lands, you would want to figure out the percentage of the symbols that make up that 85 and then fix it to your basic lands. So here, if I had 39 symbols of black, I would divide that 39 by 85, the total number, which would give me 0.46 or 46% out of that 20. So if you multiply 0.46 by 20, that would give you 9 swamps. Do the same thing with blue symbols, red symbols, and there you go. Another way you could do it, which I didn't show in here, would be to include the number of multicolored. So include your multicolored lands in there, and instead of having 20, you would have 32, or I'm not actually sure. Let's go back and see what the number was. That's a tricolor deck, so yeah, 12 multicolored lands. So then you would want to run 32. Just multiply those percentages by 32 instead, and then that would help you figure out what your multicolored and your basics makeup should be. Last question to the viewers: how many basics do you guys run in most of your multicolored decks? My decks are always way skewed towards having a higher number of basics relative to the rest of my play group, but I was curious how you guys do. A lot of the players run as many multicolored as they can so that they don't have any mana screw or need color fixing, which can be a frustration. But I think if you get your ramp right, maybe you can run some more basics. I don't know. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video and it was helpful, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. You can help support this channel by hitting that subscribe button. This will help keep you up to date on content from Budget Commander. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. Leave me a comment with your thoughts on this topic. And if you think someone else could benefit from this video, feel free to share. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you next time.